Hello and welcome to another episode of Thoughts of a Trillionaire. All right, I like to have fun on these. It's so enjoyable. All right. So the last two episodes, I talked a little bit about what I am doing with these podcasts and how I believe I will become a trillionaire. And now I'm going to talk about what exactly I would do as a trillionaire. So I kind of hinted at it a bit for the last episode on talking about how I would create a whole new society, basically build a city, a super city, or something like that, a new country, nation state, or something with that $1 trillion or a couple $1 trillion. And that nation state, or whatever it's going to be, I call it a super city, really. That is a sovereign super city. So this city will be able to create its own wealth and help everybody, every single person that arrives at the city will not need money. Instead, they will be able to create their own value and just live however they want to live. It's not like a socialism or communism type thing, even though I'm going to do a paper, really analyzing those ideas. But what people don't realize is that money is not the point in which we're living for. An economy that doesn't run on money doesn't mean that there's no economy. Remember that those same people who would say that money is not the root of all evil, that money is not some bad guy, will tell you that money is simply the transference of value, the way we're able to measure and transfer value. But because money is that, you can also make the argument that you don't need money to transfer and measure value. You can use a variety of other methods, and that's what I want to explore with my city. But what I also want to do as a trillionaire is, even before that city, or maybe after, I'm not sure yet, but basically I want to create several super cities. I want to create one in every biome of the world. A desert-based one in which is able to kind of pick up and move itself around the desert and find aquifers deep underground. A Amazon-type one that it doesn't. It either sits on top of the rainforest, like way above the treetops, and it has little branches, like dozens of thousands of branches that acts as its kind of like stem-like trunks to support the city, or it kind of sits within the rainforest. It sits within the forest in such a way that curves, that kind of snakes through the forest. It doesn't. Like, the building of the city won't actually be destructive. It won't cut down any trees or anything like that. I want to see if we can. If basically these are all experiments. First of all, I want to see if it's possible to build a human habitat without disrupting the environment, without disrupting the ecosystem. And that's the whole point of most of these super cities, is to build a habitat that doesn't disrupt the actual. To build a human living place that doesn't disrupt the habitat, the ecosystem. And so another one of those is one that lives in the cliff face. Another one that lives way underwater. Another one that's in the ice caps, and so on. I also want to build one that is like a metropolitan center of all that it means to be human progress. That's like a huge mass of spires and this, that, and the other that is all about the human arrogance of defiance to nature or whatever. But that's going to be in its own space. That'll be like built on a plane that hasn't been messed with, or built in a city's ruins or something like that. But these are a bunch of different experiments that I want to do as a trillionaire. What I also want to do as a trillionaire is to build, and if I haven't already, a new transportation system. I'll finally make hover cars. But this is dependent on if I haven't done so already. Because the main reason why I've kind of stumbled across the idea that hover cars should not be a priority right now for me is that we don't really need it. There's no need for it. People always say, "Oh, traffic," to cut across traffic and this, that, and the other. I just wanted to do it because it was cool. It's really cool, but there's no need for it. And with the current system that we have now, it'll only be negatively disruptive. It won't be positively disruptive. It will only be negatively so, because there's no way for the average person to figure out how to drive a hover car in 3 dimensions, and you still have to mess with a bunch of stupid regulations and this, that, and the other. So I want to build up to a point where I can have my hover cars in my own city that's built around hover cars, or built around a more fluid method of transportation. And that means most likely one of the ways I will become a trillionaire and then build on top of as a trillionaire is a alternate means of highways. I call it a skyway, in which is able to basically be it sits like far above the ground, and it's like a giant bridge that goes across, basically sits on top of the highway, but it's like hundreds of feet up. And this highway system doesn't use cement or anything like that. It uses like different energy forces in order to create a kind of like a road that can help things hover atop it. That can kind of like a maglev train, a maglev based type of road. And in it, you'll be able to shuttle things extremely quickly between this place and the other, kind of like a hyperloop, but open spaced, open topped, just so that it can also use wind power to create, to generate electricity, and it will also use solar power and stuff like that. And it will also have kind of materials and ways of engineering methods in which can mitigate high winds and storms, in order to then use that same wind power as further electricity or whatever type of power that we want to use. So all of these are different things I would use as a super wealthy person. Furthermore, I want to build actual spaceships, sort of like Elon Musk was doing, but unlike him, like he's freaking empowering the whole space industry. He's kickstarting us to where we think we should be at this moment. Trying to actually go on Mars and create a society on Mars. But I want to create the first. Maybe it doesn't really have to be the first, but I'm most likely it will be the first. Cross or interdimensional, that's one of my ideas as well. An interdimensional and or an intergalactic. Well, maybe not intergalactic. That's too. It's got to be a little bit realistic. Because they have no idea yet, but an interdimensional or an interstellar spaceship, an actual spaceship, not a rocket, not a giant pineal gland that thrusts into the air, penetrating the atmosphere, but a graceful, elegant spaceship, kind of like what we see, basically what we see in all of our science fiction novels and movies, but even cooler than those, because a lot of those are based on kind of like those old age architectures and designs, kind of like boxy types of things, and just kind of utilitarian and ugly. Most of them are ugly. I'm going to create an elegant, amazing spaceship that people will love to look at and want to go in, and can actually shuttle us to different solar systems, beyond our solar system, in a reasonable amount of time. And I believe that is possible. That would definitely be possible within my lifetime to build that spaceship. And so that's one of the major things I want to do before I die, is to create either regular spaceships that the average person will be able to use, or generational spaceships that an entire group of thousands of, maybe even hundreds of thousands of people can go inside and live in comfortably, might I add, for centuries before they get to the next solar system, and where they'll be able to handle any problem that they have there in order to build their society. So these are kind of like the stretch goals for what I want to do as a super wealthy person. Some other things I want to do is, of course, end global hunger and the problems with water. All of those can be solved, and I wanted to do so through using, I call them bean trees. I forgot what it stands for. Bioenergy. atmospheric networking or something like that. It's basically a biotechnological tree in which you can stimulate an actual being to grow into a tree, and on that tree it acts as a 3D printer and fabricator. The 3D printer basically it 3D prints fruits, and those fruits are actually technologies. Those fruits are like laptops and computers and networking nodes. And the tree itself has a giant antenna for networking reasons to use as to connect internet service. So that not only are you increasing the ability to feed people with these trees, because the tree will be able to 3D print actual edible fruit. It'll be able to 3D print meat and whatever else it needs to 3D print. It'll be able to create all of that, but it can also act as a way to connect starving people or people in developing countries with the internet. And then you can use the same tree on other planets, on other spatial bodies, to create to basically fast track us onto the society where we want to be. Basically, like taking a shortcut through terraforming instead of actually changing the landscape. We simply bring the technology with us in a way that can easily be used. So these trees will basically be a hub center for everything that we need: food, energy, and internet. Yes, internet is a need nowadays. The best way to connect with each other. And so another thing I want to do as a trillionaire, as a super wealthy person, is I said water, yes. So I believe we can solve many of the water problems by using, one, the ocean, of course, ways to desalinate the water in an efficient way. Haven't really thought about that way yet, but I know we'll be able to figure it out once I become, or on my way to becoming a trillionaire. So I'll likely figure it out later. It's honestly not a priority for me because I already think a lot of people are on it right now. So there's no point in me trying to prioritize it. And once I get to a point where I become a millionaire, edging on a billionaire, and if the problem still hasn't been solved by then I will do all I can to figure it out. But I believe other people are on it. I do not believe that other people are really trying to figure out how to create sustainable societies in either hostile areas on Earth, like the ocean, deep on the ocean, or an ice capsule, or in deserts. I don't believe people are really doing that. So that's why I want to do the bean tree idea. And yeah. So these are some of the many things I want to do as a wealthy person. And all of these are huge projects that will take a lot of time and money and skills. And so that's why I'm going to be busy as a rich person. You know, I'm not going to be sitting there trying to buy a bunch of stuff or whatever. If anything I buy will likely be the means to create more. So if I buy like a fashion line, I'm going to use that as a way to create an open source fashion line, which anybody will be able to create their own fashion products, and they can design better things. So if they want to start their own fashion line, they can take an example of that and spin off their own. And just I want to use the idea of making wealth accessible to people. Because again, the wealthier the average person is, well, even though that person doesn't exist, the wealthier everybody is, makes everybody else wealthier. Wealth builds on wealth. The less people that are worried about surviving, that are worried about how to turn on the water or get something to eat, the less people worried about that means the more people that are actually focused on how to bring value to themselves, to their community, to humanity, and how to grow. When you're not worried about surviving, you're always going to be thinking about how to grow. And that's what I want to get to a point. I want to get humanity to a point where we can truly grow as a people, as a society. And then we can turn around and help artificial intelligence. Then we can turn around and help other animals to become intelligent species. Then we could turn around and try to find other sentient species. But as we are now, we are not going to get far. We are going to destroy ourselves as we are now. And so I want to make sure that we do not destroy ourselves. I want to make sure that we can collaborate, that we can help each other build wealth. Thank you for listening to episode Thoughts of a Trainer. Bye bye.